You probably think your garden should be tucked in, under a cozy blanket of snow in December, right? And that all the real work can wait until spring? But what if I told you that right now, in the dead of winter, is the absolute best time to lay the foundation for a bumper crop that will make all your neighbours green with envy? Most gardeners miss out on this golden opportunity and then rush around in a panic, trying to play catch-up when spring arrives. In this video, I'm going to reveal the game-changing secrets of December soil feeding. This method allows essential nutrients to slowly and deeply penetrate the earth, so that the moment those first warm days hit, your plants literally explode into vigorous growth. Ready to learn how to put the deep freeze to work for your future harvest? Stick around until the end. To truly understand why December is a game changer, we need to take a quick peek beneath the surface. While the surface is cold and quiet, slow biological processes are still happening underground. Microorganisms don't go into complete dormancy, they simply slow their pace. And that, my friends, is exactly the advantage we need. Unlike the spring, when we rely on quick-release fertilizers for a sudden burst of energy, winter feeding is all about long-term, slow-release nutrition. Organic matter applied in December doesn't get washed away rapidly by spring snowmelt. Instead, it slowly decomposes over months, continuously enriching the soil and dramatically improving its structure. By the time spring planting rolls around, your soil isn't just nourished, it's fluffy, vital, loaded with humus, and perfectly ready to welcome new seeds. Think of it like slow cooking a gourmet meal. The longer it simmers, the richer the flavour. Winter feeding is the secret sauce for a deep, high-quality soil transformation. Let's start with the king of organics, compost. Many people assume that applying compost in winter is pointless, that it will just freeze and do nothing. This is the main misconception. In reality, December is the absolute perfect time to apply well-aged finished compost. Why? First, you are under no pressure. You can take your time spreading it across your beds without worrying about damaging any delicate spring seedlings. Secondly, throughout the winter, especially under the snow, it will go through several freeze-thaw cycles. This natural breakdown process dramatically improves its structure, making those vital nutrients much more accessible to soil microbes and eventually to your plant roots come springtime. Spread the compost in a layer about 3 to 5 centimetres, that's roughly 1 to 2 inches, thick directly on the soil surface. Do not bother tilling it in. Winter precipitation and, most importantly, earthworms will do all the work for you, gradually drawing those valuable nutrients down into the soil. Imagine this visual. We see a snowy garden bed, and someone is carefully spreading that dark, crumbly compost right over the snow or the frozen ground. This is how we create what I like to call a nutritional blanket for our soil. The next powerhouse on our list is well-rotted manure, often referred to simply as humus, and the key word here is definitely well-rotted. Never, and I mean never, apply fresh, raw manure before winter. It contains excess ammonia, which can burn plant roots come spring, and is absolutely packed with weed seeds that will happily sprout all over your beds. But high-quality, aged manure, the kind that's been sitting for at least 2 or 3 years, that's pure gold. It's rich in slow-release nitrogen and dramatically improves soil structure, making it both highly water-retentive and well-aerated. The application rate is roughly 1 standard bucket per 1 to 2 square metres of area. The technique is the same as with compost. Simply spread it evenly across the surface and let the winter weather work its magic. Future beds designated for heavy feeders like cucumbers, squash, pumpkins and cabbage respond especially well to this kind of fall feeding. Visually, you can show the difference. Here's a pile of fresh manure with that sharp, pungent smell. And here's the dark, crumbly mass of finished humus that smells clean, like rich forest earth. This contrast perfectly highlights why choosing the right material is so crucial. Now let's shift gears and talk about poultry manure. This stuff is a highly concentrated fertilizer, a real power boost for your soil. However, you must handle it with extreme caution, even during the winter months. Using fresh poultry manure, or any fresh manure for that matter, is strictly prohibited. It is highly aggressive and can actually damage the soil's delicate microflora. If you have dried or granulated manure, though, December is an excellent time to apply it. Over the winter, its concentration will mellow out, the harsh compounds will break down, and by spring, your soil will have a powerful, readily available boost of nitrogen and phosphorus. You need to spread it very sparingly. Think of it like salting the earth, just lightly dusting the surface. The recommended rate is typically no more than 200 to 300 grams per square metre. After application, it's best practice to cover it with a thin layer of soil or compost. This fertilizer is perfectly suited for beds where you plan to grow heavy feeders like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. Visual cue here. We can include a helpful animation showing how the concentrated nutrients slowly dissolve from the granules beneath the snow and uniformly permeate the top layer of the soil. We also shouldn't forget about a treasure that comes straight out of the fireplace or wood stove, wood ash. It's an invaluable source of potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and about 30 other essential micronutrients. Crucially, all of these elements are in a form that plants can easily absorb. Potassium is responsible for boosting plant immunity, increasing their resistance to disease and drought, and it also significantly enhances the flavour and sweetness of your future harvests. Applying ash in December is especially beneficial because it doesn't just nourish, it also de-acidifies the soil. Over the winter, the ash's gentle alkaline reaction will have time to naturally neutralise the excess acidity that most garden vegetables truly dislike. The application rate is straightforward, roughly 1 cup per square metre. Simply scatter it evenly over the surface of the beds. One crucial point: never use ash from burning trash, painted wood, or engineered materials like particle board. Only use ash derived from clean, pure wood or natural plant matter. For a good visual, we could show a shot of a gardener sifting that fluffy, grey ash through a screen, spreading it directly onto the garden bed. This really helps create the image of a clean, beneficial product. Let's dig a little deeper and discuss slow-release fertilizers, specifically bone meal. It's an organic source of phosphorus and calcium that breaks down incredibly slowly. If you apply it in the spring, your plants won't receive the full benefit until midsummer, or perhaps even the following season. This is why December application is the ideal scenario. Over the long winter and early spring months, the bone meal will gradually begin to decompose, aided by soil microorganisms. By the time of active growth, your plants will have crucial access to that vital phosphorus. Phosphorus is essential for developing a powerful root system, the foundation for the health and strength of any plant. Root vegetables such as carrots, beets, and potatoes, as well as berry bushes, are especially thankful for this kind of boost. The standard application rate is about 100 to 200 grams per square metre. You can simply scatter it over the surface or lightly work it into the topsoil. Visual cue. Show a cross-section illustration of plant roots, first weak, then, after being fed with phosphorus, powerful and extensively branched. Another fascinating organic product we should talk about is fish meal. Not only is it a great source of phosphorus, much like bone meal, but it's also an excellent source of nitrogen. Crucially, the nitrogen in fish meal releases slowly and steadily. This makes it absolutely perfect for winter application or long-term soil preparation. It actively enriches your soil with essential amino acids and micronutrients, dramatically boosting the activity of beneficial soil microorganisms. Essentially, you aren't just feeding your plants, you are nourishing the soil itself, making it healthier and truly alive. Fish meal works wonderfully for preparing beds for nearly all crops, especially heavy feeders like cabbage or tomatoes, which require substantial nutrition. There is just one crucial note: its distinctive odour can sometimes attract unwanted visitors, such as neighbourhood cats or even foxes. So once you spread it, using roughly the same application rate as bone meal, it's best to immediately cover it with a layer of compost or soil. Visually, we could use an infographic here, showing how the key components of fish meal, The nitrogen, phosphorus, and amino acids literally wake up the soil microflora, perhaps depicted as cheerful, active bacteria. But what should you do if you planted cover crops like mustard or oats in the fall and now they're buried under the snow? Don't forget about them just because it's December. If your cover crops manage to grow tall but weren't cut down, the frost will actually do all the work for you. The frozen green material will collapse onto the soil, transforming into a natural layer of mulch. Under the snow, this material slowly decomposes, releasing all the stored nutrients and organic matter back into the soil. Best of all, there's no need to dig or till in the spring. The roots that remain in the ground will also rot away, creating natural channels in the soil. These channels drastically improve structure, making the earth loose and well aerated. Now, if you did mow your cover crops in the fall and left them on the garden bed, the decomposition process has already begun. Your job is simply to leave everything exactly as it is. This is one of the simplest and most effective ways to boost your soil fertility. For illustration, imagine a time-lapse sequence. A lush, green bed of cover crops, the snow covers it completely, and then, come spring, that spot reveals dark, loose soil, perfectly ready for planting. Let's talk about mulching, which serves a dual purpose during the winter months. It not only protects the soil from deep freezing and erosion, but also acts as a slow-release fertilizer. If you have leftover autumn leaves, straw, hay, or wood chips, December is the perfect time to tuck those materials into your empty garden beds. A layer of mulch 4 to 6 inches thick creates the ideal environment for earthworms and beneficial soil microbes. They'll be sheltered from hard frosts, allowing them to continue their important work throughout the winter. Over the winter and into the spring, the bottom layer of this mulch will gradually break down, transforming into rich humus and significantly boosting your soil's organic matter content. By spring, you'll only need to slightly pull back the mulch to create space for planting. This method is particularly effective for berry bushes, such as currants, raspberries, and gooseberries. Visualize a scene: a gardener's hands carefully tucking thick, dry oak leaves around the root zone of a shrub, creating a snug winter blanket. Next up is that popular folk remedy, eggshells. There are tons of myths surrounding them. Some gardeners treat them almost like a magic bullet. Let's set the record straight. Eggshells are indeed mostly calcium carbonate, which is excellent for neutralizing acidic soil and providing essential nutrients to your plants. But here's the catch. They break down incredibly slowly. We're talking years. So, if you just toss large pieces of shell onto your garden beds in the spring, you won't see any measurable effect this growing season. However, applying them in December, especially if they are ground down to a fine powder, like flour, that makes perfect sense. Over the winter, the combined forces of frost and moisture will slightly speed up the decomposition process. Think of this as a long-term investment in your soil's overall health. Don't expect instant miracles, but over the course of several years, they absolutely will improve your soil's calcium balance. To demonstrate this preparation, you could show the process visually. Eggshells being pulverized in a coffee grinder until they become a fine dust, which is then scattered directly onto the garden bed. This really underscores just how crucial proper preparation is. Coffee grounds and used tea leaves are 2 more types of kitchen waste that can be incredibly beneficial for our gardens. But it's crucial to understand their real role in the process. They shouldn't be mistaken for powerful, traditional fertilizers. Their primary value lies in improving soil structure. They make the soil looser and more aerated, and they're great at attracting earthworms. While their nutrient content is low, they are packed with organic matter that breaks down slowly over time. You can apply them throughout the winter months by simply scattering them over the garden beds right on top of the snow. This is a safe and effective way to recycle organic waste, and the benefits will definitely show up later. Coffee grounds are especially effective on heavy, clay-rich soils where they work wonders to loosen the texture. Don't expect instant dramatic plant growth from tea and coffee, but as a long-term investment in overall soil health, they are an excellent option. We can even show a simple practical hack: how to collect your used coffee grounds in a dedicated container and then take them out to sprinkle them over your snowy garden patch. Sawdust, wood chips, and other wood waste can be really tricky materials to use. On the one hand, they provide excellent organic matter, but on the other, if you use them incorrectly, they can actually cause more harm than good. Fresh sawdust, as it decomposes, pulls large amounts of nitrogen from the soil, causing nitrogen starvation in your plants. This is why simply adding fresh sawdust to your garden beds over winter is a big mistake. However, if you have well-aged, dark sawdust, material that has been sitting for a year or two, you can use it safely. This aged material works wonderfully as a soil lightener and a slow-release fertilizer. Another option is to use fresh sawdust, but you need to charge it first with nitrogen. For example, soak it thoroughly with a concentrated solution of urea or liquid chicken manure and let it sit for a while. But the absolutely safest way to use wood waste in the winter is as mulch for pathways or around decorative shrubs, where they won't compete with your vegetable crops for nitrogen. Visual note here, we should compare the fresh, light-coloured sawdust with the old, dark, aged material. This visual comparison will help viewers avoid making a major mistake. Now, let's tackle a slightly complex subject, mineral fertilizers. There is a widespread belief, a myth really, that you absolutely cannot apply them in winter. And for the vast majority of products, that is actually true. Quick-release nitrogen fertilizers like ammonium nitrate or urea applied in December will simply be washed out by spring meltwater. You'll waste your money and contaminate the groundwater. The plants aren't there yet, so there is nothing to absorb that nitrogen. It just runs off into nothing. So, remember this simple rule. We save all fast-acting nitrogen and complete multi-nutrient fertilizers until spring, when plants begin actively growing and demanding nutrition. Using them over winter is like cooking a huge dinner for guests who won't arrive for another 3 months. All that food will simply spoil. To visualize this, imagine an animation. The fertilizer granules dissolve rapidly in the snow, and streams of water carry those nutrients deep underground, entirely bypassing the future root zone. However, there are some specific exceptions to the general guidelines for mineral fertilizers. We are talking primarily about phosphate and potassium fertilizers, which are known for dissolving very slowly and having poor mobility within the soil structure. This mainly includes superphosphate, especially triple superphosphate, and potassium sulfate or sulfate of potash. You can incorporate these fertilizers during your autumn or winter digging if you practice that method, or you can simply broadcast them across the surface. Throughout the winter months, they will have plenty of time to slowly dissolve and distribute themselves evenly through the entire root zone. By spring, both phosphorus and potassium will be in a readily available form, ready for plants to absorb immediately as the growing season begins. This approach is especially beneficial when dealing with heavy clay or highly acidic soils. Always check the specific application rates on the product packaging, but typically you are looking at 30 to 40 grams per square metre. This agronomic practice is most effective and justified if a recent soil analysis confirms a measurable deficit of these specific macronutrients. Visual cue: show granules of superphosphate scattered on the soil. Visualize these granules lying on the earth. Explain that their journey to the roots is not fast. It is a slow process that takes several months. Let's focus specifically on preparing the soil in your greenhouse. Even unheated greenhouses prevent the soil from freezing as hard as the ground outdoors, meaning microbiological processes remain more active inside. December is the perfect time for a thorough cleanup and revitalization of your greenhouse beds. Start by clearing out all the remaining plant debris and residue. Next, enrich the soil by adding a generous layer of compost or well-rotted manure. You might also consider planting a winter-hardy cover crop such as rye. Rye doesn't just enrich the soil, it acts as a soil conditioner, helping suppress the development of pathogenic fungi and harmful nematodes. If your greenhouse soil is heavily depleted from the past season, this is also a good time to incorporate those slow-release mineral fertilizers we mentioned earlier. The key step after all these treatments is ensuring the soil moisture is locked in. A simple way to achieve this is to shovel a good layer of snow into the greenhouse. As the snow melts, it will slowly saturate the soil, providing the essential moisture needed to kickstart the organic matter decomposition process. Visualization: a clean, well-organized greenhouse with a gardener shoveling fresh, fluffy snow onto the beds. If you are planning a large potato crop for the coming year, you need to start preparing the soil well in advance. Potatoes absolutely thrive in loose, nutrient-rich earth and respond exceptionally well to organic matter. In December, you can broadcast compost or well-rotted manure over your intended potato patch. Better yet, try a complete organic feed mix. For every square metre, apply about half a pail of manure, 1 cup of wood ash, and 1 tablespoon of superphosphate. Spread this entire mixture evenly across the surface. The best part? There is no need to dig it in. Over the winter, snow and rain will ensure that all those essential nutrients naturally leach down into the soil. In the spring, all that is left for you to do is create your planting trenches or hills. This kind of advanced preparation will significantly boost your overall yield and greatly improve the flavour and quality of the tubers. Visualization suggestion: show an infographic here. The soil plot is the base, layered with manure, ash, and superphosphate. Snow covers the top. An arrow then points to a photo of large, clean, perfect potatoes. Preparing beds for future root vegetables, things like carrots, beets, and parsnips, requires a specific approach. The number one rule here is simple: absolutely no fresh organic material. Adding fresh manure or immature compost to these beds will cause your crops to grow deformed, develop side roots, and significantly reduce their storage life. That's why, when preparing these beds in December, we stick strictly to fully decomposed compost or well-aged humus, and even then, we use it sparingly. Instead, the primary focus must be on potassium and phosphorus, the elements responsible for forming large, straight, and sweet root vegetables. The perfect feed mix for this winter preparation is wood ash combined with bone meal or superphosphate. Just scatter these ingredients evenly over the surface of the future bed and let winter do the heavy lifting. By spring, your soil will be perfectly conditioned for planting, ensuring you get that ideal harvest of uniform, tasty root vegetables. And as a quick warning, if you see a crooked, forked carrot, you know exactly what happened: improper application of fresh, organic matter. Many gardeners use dolomite or agricultural lime during the winter to neutralize soil acidity. This is a very sound strategy because the deacidification process is extremely slow, and December is an ideal time to carry out this procedure. However, there is one crucial detail that is often overlooked. Never apply lime or dolomite simultaneously with manure, poultry litter, or phosphate fertilizers. Why? When these materials are mixed, immediate chemical reactions occur. The nitrogen contained in the manure converts into ammonia gas and simply escapes into the atmosphere, while the phosphorus becomes locked up in compounds that plants cannot absorb. Essentially, you lose a significant portion of the nutrients you paid for. Therefore, you must separate these applications by time. For example, you can apply the lime in December and wait until spring to incorporate your compost or aged manure. Or you can do it the other way around. This simple rule will save you money and significantly boost the effectiveness of your fertilizers. Beyond fertilizing, December is the perfect time to address your soil structure, especially if you're dealing with heavy, dense clay. Heavy soils restrict water and airflow, meaning they take forever to warm up in the spring and often bake into a hard, impenetrable crust. To dramatically improve that structure, you can incorporate materials like coarse river sand or well-rotted sawdust during the winter months. Simply broadcast them across the top of your garden beds. Throughout the winter, the repeated freeze-thaw cycles will naturally work these amendments down into the topsoil, creating a looser, more open structure. This is a purely mechanical improvement method that beautifully complements your regular additions of organic matter. By spring, your soil will be significantly easier to manage and work with. To illustrate the difference, here is a hard clod of dense, sticky clay, and next to it, the loose, crumbly soil you get after incorporating sand and organic matter. And finally, the simplest yet most vital booster we have in December is the snow itself. Never underestimate its role. A thick blanket of snow insulates the soil, protecting the roots of perennial plants from lethal freezing. It also prevents windburn and erosion of that valuable topsoil. But the most significant benefit is the source of pure meltwater it provides in spring. This meltwater is often referred to as living water. It has a special structure that is highly advantageous for plant growth. Your main task now is to maximize snow retention across your beds. Set up snow fences or shields, scatter branches, and deliberately leave the sturdy stalks of taller plants standing. The deeper the snow piles up on your garden beds, the more crucial moisture the soil will receive come spring times. Crucially, this moisture will dissolve and deliver those precious nutrients and fertilizers, the ones we carefully applied in December, directly to the developing root systems. Think of snow as the conductor, orchestrating the massive spring symphony of growth. Show visuals here. Visualize these beautiful scenes. A snowy garden where special snow-catching structures help build up those magnificent, deep drifts right where you need them most. Let's wrap up. As you can see, December isn't the dead season for gardeners that many think. Instead, it's a crucial time for quiet, thoughtful, and strategically important work. While others are resting, you are laying a solid foundation for a truly phenomenal harvest next year. We covered the main principle of winter feeding, relying heavily on slow-release organic matter, things like compost, aged manure, wood ash, and bone meal. We also learned why it's critical not to use fresh manure or fast-acting, water-soluble mineral fertilizers right now. But here's the biggest secret, the plot twist, if you will. These valuable amendments we apply aren't activated by warmth, but by the cold and the snow itself. It's the freeze-thaw cycles and the slow melting of the snow that make those nutrients available and distribute them evenly throughout the soil. Winter is not our enemy. It's actually our greatest ally in preparing the garden. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way through. If you found this information helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. Now I have a question for you. What are your own secrets for winterizing the vegetable patch? What specific fertilizers do you rely on in December? Share your experience in the comments below and let's start a discussion.